After the tragic loss of their mother, twins discovered an amazing lifeline from a millionaire. Emma sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the remnants of their mother's life, a canvas splashed with vibrant colors, the brush still resting beside it like a lonely companion. The suffocating silence of the house echoed in her ears. She felt trapped between the weight of grief and the allure of an uncertain future. Just days after their mother's passing, they received a visit from Mr. Harrison, an enigmatic millionaire captivated by their mother's art. Now, he was offering them a lifeline, a chance to escape the clutches of their mother's legacy that felt like both a blessing and a curse. Jake paced the room, his fists clenched, tugging at the threads of his shirt like it was a lifeline itself. He could hear the crumbling of their home, the bills piling up under the door marked with red ink. To sell their mother's paintings meant to sell her soul. Each brushstroke etched forever in memory was in danger of being erased. "We can't just sell her work, Emma. It's everything she sacrificed for us." His voice cracked, the anguish palpable as it collided with Emma's simmering resolve. Emma's heart raced as she weighed their choices. "But what if this is our only chance? You've seen how broken things are. We can't stay here forever." Her voice trembled, cloaked in desperation, ambition flickering like a candle in a dark storm. What if they could break free? What if they could chase their dreams, sheltered from the growing shadows of bills and despair? With each passing day, the memory of their mother's laughter dulled against the harshness of reality, and opportunities like Mr. Harrison's seemed too precious to dismiss. In her mind, a future unfolded like a bright horizon past the golden wheat fields, promising escape from Maplewood's grip. Before they continued, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake, can't you see? This is our way out. Emma pleaded, her voice a whisper laced with contradiction. We have to think about our future. The walls felt as if they were closing in, a battlefield of emotions where the stakes were as high as their mother's dreams. Jake shook his head, anger painting his cheeks red. Our future? At what cost, Emma? You think this deal means we've won? We'd be burying her memory for some cash. This isn't just a business decision. It's our lives. The tension in the room crackled. He took a step back, torn between his loyalty to the past and the fierce longing to protect Emma from making a choice they might later regret. And as silence enveloped them, the reality sank in. They stood on a precipice, everything they loved dangling precariously before them. Would they choose honor over ambition? Would they fight for their mother's legacy, or would they risk everything for a glimmer of hope? The answer lingered in the air, heavy and suffocating, threatening to tear them apart. In that moment, the twins realized that the true battle lay not outside but within, the echoes of their mother's spirit urging them to confront the truth of who they were and who they might become. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow over Emma's bed. Yet, instead of offering comfort, its illuminated rays seemed to mock the uncertainty looming above her head. Emma was no longer just a daughter. She was suddenly thrust into the role of decision-maker. Her heart drummed relentlessly against her chest as she clutched her phone, staring at a message from Mr. Harrison. Meet me tomorrow at the gallery to discuss details. This could be the turning point for both of us. She couldn't shake the excitement that flickered within her, mingling uneasily with guilt. Despite everything, a voice in her head whispered, what if this could be the turning point? They could finally step into a world where the weight of bills and grief lifted, where their mother's art could flourish under the nurturing light of recognition rather than fading into shadows. Jake, we should go talk to him, she said decisively, her eyes narrowing with determination. Her resolve solidified with each passing moment, grasping tightly to the belief that this opportunity was meant for them. "Talk to him?" Jake snapped, re-entering the room with a tight expression. "Or let him make puppets of us? You think he's here for us? He wants the art, Emma. It's all about profit for him, don't you see?" His frustration poured out, yet in the depths of his words, Emma sensed his fear. Fear of losing the remnants of their mother's passion. She understood that Jake was driven by loyalty, but it clashed violently against her ambition. "Listen, we have to digest everything," Emma urged, pacing the floor. "Maybe, just maybe, we can negotiate something that honors her legacy while allowing us room to breathe." As they wrestled with their opposing views, Emma felt an unexpected surge of clarity. All her life, she watched their mother transform stillness into beauty, using art as a vessel to express emotion when words faltered. Perhaps she had inherited more than just her mother's genes. Perhaps there was a creative spark within her waiting to ignite. She could see it now. The ambition rooted in talent rather than mere survival. Jake's silence hung heavy in the air. He didn't want to betray their mother's spirit by commodifying her work. And Emma didn't want to bury their future by clinging to the past. Each sibling's instincts pushed against the other, forming an explosive tension that felt undeniably real. Taking a deep breath, Emma devised a plan. "Let's make a list of what matters to us." She retrieved a notebook and scribbled, "Respect their mother's legacy." "Now, put down financial stability," she continued, tapping the paper, eager to keep the conversation flowing. "We need to support ourselves." "And?" Jake asked, folding his arms, waiting for her to make her case. "Art for recognition, not just cash. I want to find a way to ensure the art lives on," Emma stated, her voice gaining strength. "What if we sell a few pieces but keep the ones that mean the most? We could hold an exhibition and share her story, capture her essence while obtaining something in return." As the words spilled from her lips, their designs morphed into possibility, a plan emerging from the ashes of their despair. Jake listened intently, his defenses softening. "Maybe," he conceded slowly. "But if it feels wrong, we pull out." The agreement echoed as a silent pact, an understanding sealed with more than just words. Emma felt invigorated, ignited by internal liberties she hadn't recognized before. That night, they reviewed their mother's works, reminiscing as they navigated the fragile line of legacy and destiny. Hand in hand, they had the chance to redefine their core ambitions. Yet, as bed beckoned her, doubt crept in. Was she ready for the choices ahead, the responsibility of facing Mr. Harrison tomorrow? A new wave of determination coursed through her veins. Tomorrow would mean not just confronting a figure of authority, but embracing the opportunity to shape her own identity in her mother's world. Change loomed large, pregnant with both risk and potential. And as sleep finally took her, Emma anticipated the moment when everything could pivot. Did they hold the power to craft not only their future, but also the legacy of a mother whose heart beat through every stroke of paint? Or would they succumb to the fears that had long held them back? Tension rose in her chest, choking her optimism. The time had come to confront both their indomitable past and their exhilarating future. As morning dawned anew, only one question remained. Could they become the artists of their own destiny? The gallery loomed ahead, a polished facade that seemed impervious to the personal chaos swirling within Emma's mind. Her heart raced in her chest, a mix of anticipation and trepidation merging as she stepped across the threshold. The vivid colors of the paintings displayed in bright light held a silent power, yet they felt distant from the nervous energy thrumming through her. Mr. Harrison stood poised near the entrance, his eyes scanning the space with the calculated gaze of someone used to evaluating worth. Emma swallowed hard, grappling with the latent insecurities that threatened to diminish her resolve. As they exchanged greetings, she felt the weight of her mother's legacy riding heavily on her shoulders. She was not just presenting art. She was presenting their mother's soul. Thank you for coming, Emma said, her voice steady despite the rush of nerves. Jake will be here shortly. I wanted to talk about how we can work together. A wise decision, Emma, he replied, a flicker of surprise softening his otherwise businesslike demeanor. Your mother's art shows immense potential. We have a unique opportunity here. Emma focused on the words, noting the sincerity behind them. She needed to dig deeper. This was not just about art, but about ownership of their narrative, and she couldn't afford to let hesitation sneak in now. If her mother had taught her anything, it was to face challenges head-on. As she and Mr. Harrison walked through the gallery, examining pieces that resonated with their mother's life, Emma felt the stirrings of her own creativity. She imagined the stories behind each stroke, each color a whisper echoing the emotions that had inspired them. The longing, the joy, the pain. In that moment, she recognized that her artistic vision was not simply about survival. It was a powerful tool to connect, to communicate, and to heal. Have you considered how to market her work? Mr. Harrison asked, the business strategist forming in him. The right positioning could elevate her legacy beyond what she achieved in life. Yes, but I want to ensure it's done respectfully, Emma said, forcing herself to maintain eye contact. I don't want her art to be stripped of its essence for profit. There has to be a story that honors her journey. Mr. Harrison paused, raising an eyebrow as if intrigued by her resolve. And what story do you wish to tell? Emma hesitated. Here was her chance to encapsulate the vision she had spent the sleepless night crafting with Jake. I wanted to showcase her struggles, her love, and ultimately, her triumph over adversity. We can tell that story through exhibitions, use social media to reach out, and create a narrative that speaks to the heart of the art world. He nodded, a knowing smirk revealing something akin to admiration. A bold strategy for a young artist. But how will you ensure your mother's spirit is intact while embarking on this venture? The question hit harder than she anticipated, and doubts clawed at her resolve. Would the choices she made truly reflect her mother's spirit, or would they morph into a marketing tool, transforming love into commodity? Before Emma could answer, Jake burst in, his presence commanding as he scanned the spacious room. The tension in the air shifted. Emma could sense Jake's skepticism radiating from him as he took in the polished atmosphere. It was time to confront not only the looming decisions, but the conflicting ambitions that lay between them. Jake, we were just discussing how to honor Mom's legacy, Emma called, motioning for him to join. She felt the urgency of the moment intensify, both within her and in her sibling relationship. Mr. Harrison's eyes darted between the two of them, sensing the dynamic. It was a test. Could they blend their visions without splintering apart at the seams? But what if their clashing ideals overshadowed their mother's story? What if, in this pivotal exchange, they ultimately lost control of their often oppositional tether? As Jake's gaze locked with hers, emotions swirled in unspoken words. Were they ready to define their roles in this new chapter? The stakes were real, the challenge palpable. In this reflective space at the gallery, could they weave together their dreams, or would they unravel into a fractured narrative shaped by external forces? As decisions loomed ominously overhead, Emma prepared to navigate this precarious moment, both for her future and the raw essence of their mother's legacy that hung in the balance. What would they choose in face of these crossroads? Would they emerge united or fall apart at the seams? The forthcoming dialogue cracked with tension, laden with potential yet fraught with risk. Emma felt a palpable shift in the air as Jake approached, each step resonating like a drumbeat in her chest. She sensed his reluctance. It floated between them like an unsaid prayer for understanding. As he reached her side, the gallery's polished surface suddenly seemed brittle, reflecting their shared tension, rather than the warmth of memorializing their mother's vibrant life. Really, Emma? Jake's voice sliced through the atmosphere, his skepticism stark against the colorful backdrop. You think Mr. Harrison can capture whatever you envision? This is just business to him. Emma inhaled slowly, her heartbeat quickening. She opened her mouth to respond, but found her words tangled in the raw edge of her emotions. It felt as if Jake doubted her understanding of their mother's message, as though the essence of their mother's art could be reduced to commerce in Jake's eyes. "We have to start somewhere," she finally said, clenching her fist to suppress the tremor in her voice. "If we don't take control of her story now, who will? You can't seriously think it's better to sit back and risk her art fading into obscurity." "No, I just don't want it distorted, Emma. This isn't just about sales, it's about respect. We owe her that." "You think I don't know that?" Her frustration bubbled over. They had always relied on each other's strengths, yet faced with their mother's legacy, a rift threatened to form. Was her vision different from Jake's, merely a reflection of their long-heated disagreements? At Mr. Harrison's silence, tension coiled tighter. He watched them, waiting for resolution or fracture, completely aware of their differing ambitions. Somehow, their private conflict had transformed into a tangible presence, heavy in the room as they navigated the contours of their family history. "We need to put our differences aside to find some common ground," Emma urged, seeking a softening in his expression. Jake's face softened slightly, but his determination remained resolute. "What do you have in mind? Let's hear it." "Together, we can create a narrative that captivates without losing authenticity," she suggested, her mind racing to create a plan that might bridge their gap. "What if we offered a series of workshops? Those could enable us to engage the community, our community. We can tell Mom's story through her art." "Workshops?" Jake's brow furrowed in skepticism. "Will that really honor her?" "I believe it will," Emma replied, her voice steadier now. "It's about creating a dialogue, just like Mom did. She found healing through connections, through sharing her journey. We can extend that same comfort to others, while showcasing her work." As the weight of the suggestion hung between them, Emma felt uncertainty twist in her gut. Was it a calculated leap of faith, or merely a diversion from facing the harsh reality of their expectations? But Jake surprised her by nodding in contemplation. "You might be onto something there," he admitted, his shoulders relaxing slightly. "It feels genuine. She would have loved that." An unexpected spark ignited in Emma's chest, woven between the threads of hope and fear. What if their collaboration was more than just a means to an end? What if, by nurturing their mother's legacy together, they could reshape their understanding of one another? Yet as excitement bubbled within, a creeping doubt gnawed at the edges of her vision. Could they truly achieve this shared dream, without further clashing, without pushing against each other's boundaries and leaving wounds? "Let's set aside some time to sketch out a plan," she suggested. "But Jake, we need to be open to making compromises. Your voice matters just as much as mine." "Agreed," he replied cautiously, a flicker of agreement crossing his face. "But let's be clear. Profits can't overshadow the message. It's not a product. It's her legacy." "Of course," Emma's resolve solidified. "Let's ensure her spirit thrives in everything we do." As they pivoted towards Mr. Harrison, poised to outline their shared vision, a sudden vibration in Emma's phone broke the intensity of the moment. She glanced at the screen, a message from someone unexpected. In the midst of thwarting her fears and moving towards collaboration, could this message hold the key to another opportunity, or would it only widen their familial differences? "What is it?" Jake queried, noticing the shift in her expression, the screen lighting up with new implications. Emma's heart raced again, not from doubt, but anticipation. Just a message from an old friend. "We need to talk about this." The hesitation lingered, the room transforming into a husk of unanswered questions crafted by outside forces. Crafts of partnerships danced precariously on a knife edge, balancing on the precipice of revelation. Was this the turning point of clarity, or merely another distraction from finding her true self? Emma's fingers trembled as she stared at the screen, a familiar name staring back at her like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. It was Ava, her childhood friend who had moved across the country 5 years ago. The message was brief, but tantalizing. "Hey, Emma. I'm back in town and would love to catch up. I have something interesting to discuss." A mix of nostalgia and anxiety washed over her. She hadn't seen Ava in years, but the memories were vivid. Long afternoons in the art room, poring over canvases, and endless discussions about the meaning behind their mother's artistic spirits. Would she have insight into Emma's and Jake's plans? Or could her return risk further complicating an already fragile situation? "Do you need to take that?" Jake's voice broke through her swirling thoughts, pulled her back from a familiar comfort she hadn't realized she craved. "No, it can wait," Emma replied, attempting to sound composed while her mind raced. "This is about Mom, and we're on the brink of something important here." She struggled to refocus on the task at hand, knowing they had each other's momentum now. This was their chance to redefine their mother's legacy together. However, doubt gnawed at her. Memories of past choices flooded her thoughts. How many times had she let outside distractions derail her ambitions? The scent of unresolved history hung heavily in the air. "Let's draft some ideas for the workshop," Emma said, determined to push through the tension. "We can break it down into themes. Maybe start with the healing power of art?" Jake nodded slowly, but his brow remained drawn in contemplation. "That could work, but what if we structured it around specific pieces of Mom's work? Each theme can be tied to a canvas, a story." Emma felt her heart lift slightly. Jake's idea had merit. They could invoke the spirit of their mother directly while facilitating the dialogue. That would bring authenticity to their mission. "Right. And maybe invite people who knew her. Ask them to share their stories as well," Emma added, envisioning how the gallery might transform into a vibrant space of healing. It could make her art more than just visual. It can weave narratives that resonate. She saw Jake's eyes glimmer with inspiration. He was on board. Perhaps their collaboration was no longer just a cautious negotiation of visions, but the architecture of their healing as well. Yet still, the message from Ava lingered at the edges of her thoughts. What was the nature of her return? The something interesting felt like a promise wrapped in mystery that she couldn't shake off. If Ava had information or influence, it could change the game. But at what cost? "Let's schedule time to meet with Mr. Harrison," Jake suggested, and Emma nodded, though the uncertainty in her heart prevented total commitment to the idea. As they cemented the structure of their collective venture, Emma felt a familiar tension rise between excitement and anxiety. Jake's presence fueled her ambition, but what if Ava's presence disrupted everything? "Okay, let's aim for that first meeting in a few days. I want to have everything ready to present," Jake said, a new sense of determination etched onto his face. "I'll text Ava back," Emma said, her voice firmer than she felt inside. Maybe reconnecting could be beneficial. Who knows what she might bring? The words felt heavy with the potential to usher in change. As she sent the message off, Emma was struck by an unexpected wave of dread. Was she stepping into something unknown that could either mend their frayed relationship or unravel it further? The clock was ticking, and she felt the weight of impending decisions pressing on her. Would their attempts to honor their mother help them carve a harmonious path, or would they fall into old patterns of discord, especially with external influences at play? A ripple of uncertainty coursed through her. The thrill of collaboration sat at odds with the fear of the unknown, a paradox of possibilities. What awaited her at the crossroads of personal resolve and rekindled connections? As Emma stood poised between past and future, she couldn't shake the feeling that her choices held the potential to either heal or shatter everything she was striving to create. And then, in the stillness between heartbeats, the thought provided clarity. The time had come to face not only their mother's legacy, but also the ghosts of their past. And perhaps it would take more than just their shared dreams to navigate through the remnants. Could they truly succeed? Or would old wounds resurface as obstacles? Emma woke early the next morning, the early light casting long shadows across her room. A tightness gripped her throat as reminders of the previous day's conversations flooded back. She could scarcely swallow the dread that followed the realization. Reconnecting with Ava might not be just a benign nostalgia trip. Her phone buzzed beside her, and she instinctively reached for it. Curiosity about Ava's message could quickly spiral into heavy contemplation, yet she hesitated. She knew she could easily lose focus. Shaking off the thoughts, she turned to her notebook, where she'd started to brainstorm the workshop's structure. The pages were filled with hastily sketched ideas and thematic prompts. She needed clarity, a way to shift her focus back to the tangible goals they were chasing. Capturing her mother's artistic essence was no small feat. There was depth in the chaos of emotions they were navigating, each moment tinged with longing, regret, and a flicker of hope. Emma took a deep breath and wrote, "Healing through art. What does it mean?" She underlined the question and tried to stay present, but the specter of the past loomed large. Every stroke of her pen felt heavy, laden with the weight of unfinished business. What if Ava returned with insights that could challenge her ambitions? Or perhaps even make her doubt the path chosen alongside Jake? As the day unfolded, Emma found herself immersed in a mix of frantic creativity and paralyzing self-doubt. She and Jake had set a meeting with Mr. Harrison for next week, but uncertainty loomed larger than ever. What if he had different expectations? Or what if Ava's input skewed their plans for the workshop? With Jake's commitment and enthusiasm invigorating her, Emma felt the urgency to reclaim her vision. After a quick lunch, she decided to go for a walk to clear her mind. The familiar path leading to the local park felt hauntingly nostalgic, bringing memories of carefree days spent sketching as kids. She closed her eyes, allowing the breeze to swirl around her, and even gathered courage to think about what Ava's presence might mean for her. Could Ava be a catalyst for rediscovering parts of herself that had long been buried? The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. Emma recalled their shared afternoons soaked in artistic passion, eager discussions about art and life. Would reconnecting unlock a creativity she feared was getting stifled under the weight of her current responsibilities? As she walked, Emma found herself lost in thought, only to be jolted back to reality by the sight of an old mural they'd painted as teenagers, a vibrant embodiment of their shared dreams. Her heart surged momentarily, recognizing the raw energy behind their youthful aspirations. Why had she dulled that drive? Could she believe in that dream again? Resolving to embrace the potential of Ava's return, Emma made her way home, passion ignited. She would invite Ava into their plans, not as an outsider, but as a collaborator, someone who could instigate the spark she so desperately needed. That evening, Emma received another message from Ava, more detailed this time. "Hey, Em, I'm back in town, and I've been thinking about what we could do to honor your mom's legacy together. Let's meet up tomorrow." A knot twisted in Emma's stomach as she contemplated what Ava could possibly mean. Excitement mixed with apprehension danced within her. The past could unfold in unexpected ways, and she could either embrace the possibility or end up caged by it. As night enveloped her, Emma thought of the long-forgotten spark that first drew her to art. Awash in the uncertainties, she felt a new wave of determination. Perhaps it was now or never to revive that part of her identity she had let slip away. Tomorrow held the promise of enlightenment or complexity, testing her strength and resolutions. Yet she also felt an undeniable tug, a reminder of the risk involved. The emotional storm brewed, and as she set her phone down for the night, she understood that reconnecting with Ava might unearth more than just aspirations. It could unveil hidden truths that would challenge everything she believed about herself. Could embracing the past lead to profound revelations, or would it draw her deeper into turmoil? Emma knew that by stepping forward, she was on the verge of a pivotal moment. One that could influence not just her relationship with Ava, but alter the very fabric of who she was meant to become. The dawn of a new chapter loomed, and she held her breath at the brink of it all, aware that tomorrow's meeting could irrevocably change her trajectory. What awaited in that confrontation of the past would either be her greatest breakthrough or the depths of soul-searching turmoil. Emma woke to the muffled sounds of a new day. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, but its brightness felt unwelcome. She lay still for a moment, staring at the ceiling, caught in the web of her anxieties about the day ahead. Meeting Ava could unravel everything she had so carefully constructed since her mother's passing. Yet that thought also carried a different weight. Perhaps it could weave together threads of creativity and healing she had long ignored. After a quick breakfast, she filled her travel bag with art supplies, crafting a tentative plan to sketch their meeting, a mix of documenting the moment and a means of diving into the emotional labyrinth they both inhabited. As she approached the cafe they had chosen, a part of Emma questioned if she was ready for the emotional depths this reunion could plunge them into. The lively chatter and clinking of cups only heightened her sense of disconnection. Was she truly prepared to face the shared history they had both tucked away? The moment Ava walked through the door, a jolt surged through Emma. There she was, her energy a whirlwind of exuberant nostalgia. They embraced, each holding on for a moment longer than necessary, seeking reassurance in the familiarity of one another. Yet, beneath their warm smiles, the tension crackled. "Emma," Ava began, her voice carrying a mixture of apprehension and excitement. "I've thought a lot about what we could do. It's time we honor your mom's art, but not just in remembrance. I want to inspire and be inspired." As they conversed, Emma found herself immersed in memories burst forth like paint on a canvas. They recalled the spontaneity of youth, the thrill of trailing fingers through wet paint, and the promises of never letting the world snuff out their creativity. Yet woven within those memories was a sense of loss. Emma's heart clenched at the reminder of what had been stifled, the very essence of her mother's spirit that had brought them together through art. "I've been scared, Ava," she admitted, her voice wavering. "Scared of failing to capture what she meant to us, and scared of facing my own limitations." "Scared is okay," Ava replied, her determination palpable. "But you don't have to face it alone anymore. We can explore this together." Emma's worries spun in her mind. Could she truly let go of her fear and allow Ava to be a partner in this endeavor? They spent the next few hours brainstorming, laughter interspersed with thoughtful pauses. Ideas bounced between them like vibrant paint splashes. They envisioned workshops, community outreach, and exhibitions reflecting the essence of their departed inspiration. Yet with each stroke of new possibilities emerged a haunting specter of insecurity. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the pressure to create something meaningful would return, thicker than ever. Would she be capable of translating their raw emotions into something that resonated with others, something that honored her mother's legacy rather than diminished it? When the conversation shifted towards next steps, Emma hesitated. "What if we don't succeed, Ava? What if we end up lost again, just like we were after her passing?" Ava's brow furrowed thoughtfully. What if success isn't the goal? What if healing through art, even in its rawest form, is what we are meant to discover? This journey might be messy, an exploration rather than a destination. There was clarity in Ava's words, breaking through Emma's hesitation like sunlight breaking through clouds. The idea that their work could be an ongoing process, an evolving creation rather than a final masterpiece, felt liberating. Emma found herself smiling, recognizing that this could also be her own journey of reclaiming her artistic voice. As they wrapped up, a determination settled comfortably within Emma. She would embrace this process, share her vulnerabilities, and allow this rekindled connection to shape her into the artist she wanted to be. A being not defined by fear, but by curiosity and courage. The night sky enveloped her as she left the cafe, resolve pulsating through her. Tomorrow, I'm reaching out to the community to gather ideas and set things in motion. Little did she know. Lurking just outside the boundaries of her enthusiasm were deeper revelations about her past. Truths that would challenge the very foundation she was now determined to build upon. What shadows from her past might loom heavier than reasserting her art? Emma gripped her notepad tighter, ready to confront the truths that awaited her in the next chapter of this artistic rebirth. Emma's resolve carried her through the twilight hours, but the promise of a new beginning came with an underlying tension. With each passing moment alone in her studio, the shadows of her past flared to life. Paintbrushes lay dormant beside her unfinished canvases, and she sensed a wall rising between her aspirations and the bittersweet memories of her mother. The following morning, she sat at her kitchen table, staring at her phone. A list of contacts stared back at her, a mix of old friends and acquaintances she had lost touch with over the years. The urge to reach out battled with the fear of exposing her vulnerabilities. What if none of them remembered the passion for artistry they once shared? What if they saw her as nothing more than a fragment of her mother's legacy, a hollow reflection? Biting her lip, she typed out a casual text to several friends, inviting them to discuss art and ideas for upcoming projects. Her thumb hovered over the screen for a heartbeat before she hit send, the anxiety of rejection fluttering in her chest. It was a small step, but it felt monumental, echoing in the recesses of her mind. As responses began to trickle in, Emma's initial excitement soon turned to a familiar gnawing sensation. Not everyone replied with enthusiasm. Some messages were lukewarm, a sign of hesitant reconnection. Yet one message, from a childhood friend named Mia, brightened Emma's spirits. "I'd love to. Let's get together soon and talk art. It's been too long." With renewed purpose, Emma skimmed through sketches and past ideas compiled over the years. Each stroke of graphite on paper felt like a connection to her mother, yet it also stirred an uncomfortable mix of longing and despair. Could she capture her mother's spirit without mimicking it? She yearned to pay homage to the influence that had shaped her life while forging her own identity, separate but intertwined with that legacy. That evening, Emma found herself sitting crossed-legged on the floor of her studio, surrounded by a tumult of sketches and supplies. The openness of the space mirrored her mind, a chaotic whirl of possibility and insecurity. An unfinished canvas loomed nearby, taunting her with an empty expectation. She glanced at it, and instead of diving straight into the fear of imperfection, she took a deep breath. How could she use this canvas as an exploration of her rebirth, rather than evidence of failure? With each brushstroke, she painted not a replica of her mother's style, but a reflection of her own burgeoning emotions, messy, yet authentic. The bright colors released tension from her shoulders, revealing layers of joy interspersed with sorrow. Each mark on the canvas was a confrontation, a step further into acceptance. But the specter of doubt soon returned, narrowing her focus. What if the world rejected this version of her art? What if her fear of inadequacy pushed her to stop before she could truly begin? Forcing her hand to move felt like surrendering to vulnerability. The tension in her gut swelled, threatening to collapse her resolve. Through gritted teeth, she pushed back against the tide of self-doubt. In this moment, she recognized the cornerstone of her journey. It wasn't about perfection. It was about progress. Vulnerability could be her greatest tool, a bridge to deeper connections, and a source of profound creativity. Each stroke wasn't just an exploration of her artistic identity, it was a testament to her resilience. As she stepped back to observe her work, the vibrant chaos pulsing before her felt liberating, a fusion of her past and present. The wall crumbled just slightly, and in its place her voice emerged. Bold, raw, and undeniably hers. Tomorrow, she planned to assemble her friends in a small circle to share their ideas, each voice an echo of collective creativity. Still, the undercurrent of uncertainty beckoned. Would they welcome her raw exploration, or would they expect the perfection she feared she could never achieve? Emma gazed into her reflection in the glass of a nearby window, and for the first time in months, she caught a glimmer of hope buried beneath the self-doubt. The moment felt fragile, yet powerful, a nascent realization that her journey was just beginning. What happens when personal ambition collides with deep-seated fears? She pondered, barely aware of that being the question she would soon confront in the crucible of shared artistic expression. The next day arrived, punctuated by an electric sense of anticipation. Emma busied herself preparing her studio. She arranged the chairs in a circle, the art supplies organized within easy reach, and her sketches pinned to the walls to spark conversation. Each piece was a visual diary, illustrating her emotional journey, and she hoped they would resonate with her friends. As the clock ticked closer to the meeting time, her mind flooded with intertwining anxiety and excitement. Memories of her mother's unwavering support filled her thoughts, alongside an unsettling fear of judgment. Would Mia and the others see her as merely an extension of her mother's legacy? The notion tightened her chest, but she pressed on, determined to embrace this vulnerability. When the doorbell rang, her heart leapt. Mia entered first, her vibrant enthusiasm infusing the room like sunlight. They embraced, the familiar warmth offering a momentary reprieve from Emma's swirling emotions. As the other friends arrived, a melange of familiar faces from her past, Emma felt the studio pulsate with energy. Conversations began easily, laughter weaving through the air, but as the group settled into their seats, moments of silence fell like heavy curtains over the room. Emma could sense curiosity, perhaps judgment, hanging in the balance. Would they accept her exploration, or would it provoke an uncomfortable scrutiny? "Thanks for gathering here today," Emma began, her voice slightly wavering as she fought against the encroaching doubt. "I've been sketching lately, trying to reconnect with my art, and I'd love your feedback." With knotted fingers, she gestured towards her sketches. The first one depicted vibrant streaks of color, an abstract representation of grief and rebirth. As they examined the artwork, she watched their faces, searching for expressions of understanding. Mia leaned forward. "This one feels so alive, Emma. There's something raw about your use of color." The encouragement coursed through Emma, igniting a flicker of confidence. "Do you feel like this is more you than your previous work?" Another friend asked, a hint of skepticism threading their voice. Emma inhaled sharply, the question piercing through her newfound veil of courage. "I'm trying to navigate my own style. It's a fusion of my past experience and something new. It's challenging," she admitted, her voice firming as she continued. "To figure out where my voice ends and my mother's begins." The discussion morphed into a blend of insightful critiques and personal stories, each friend sharing their own experiences with creative identity. Emma's pulse quickened as she revealed snippets of her artistic process, the vulnerabilities she faced while painting. Bit by bit, the shield surrounding her heart weakened, but as she shared, another thought gnawed at her. Beneath their validation lingered her own insecurities. Could these insights propel her forward, or would they hand her the weight of expectation that had stifled her for so long? As the group moved to discuss their individual projects, Emma felt the shadows of doubt creeping back in, whispering of expectations, real and imagined. Would she measure up? Would her friends criticize her honesty, expecting a more polished version of her craft? Just then, Mia placed her hand over Emma's. "You're brave for showing us this," she said with sincerity. "Really, art is about vulnerability, and you're really delving into that. It's inspiring." The acknowledgement resonated deep within her, compelling Emma to confront the quiet voice of fear. Wasn't her true ambition to connect with others through authenticity? Suddenly it struck her. This collective exploration of art wasn't just about the brushstrokes. It was about trusting herself in the journey. She needed to embrace this moment, even if the risk of rejection loomed large. With each word exchanged, Emma felt a burgeoning sense of clarity. This wasn't merely a gathering. It was a lifeline, a supportive thread intertwining her personal growth with the fears she had haunted her. Yet, as laughter resumed in the studio, Emma couldn't shake the lingering tension. What if all this deep introspection leads me to an unexpected clash with my past? She mused, her mind racing with possibilities just as Emma articulated the wish for her next steps. Unbeknownst to her, the world outside had begun shifting too. and her next art piece would present a challenge that might test everything she had begun to nurture within. Days turned into weeks, and as Emma dove deeper into her art, the once dominating shadows of her insecurities began to recede. Her sketches transformed into vibrant paintings, each brushstroke echoing elements of her mother's style, while exuding an authenticity that was entirely her own. The workshop she had envisioned with Jake took shape, drawing in members of the community who craved to explore the transformational power of art. Each session filled her with a sense of purpose. Laughter and creativity intertwined as participants shared their stories through art, bridging their experiences with the essence of her mother's work. Conversations flowed naturally, the air thick with a collective healing that reinforced the notion that vulnerability was indeed a source of strength. Emma no longer felt like merely the daughter of an artist, but emerged as a creative force in her own right, recognized not just for her lineage, but for her passion. The pinnacle of her week arrived when she announced the date for the exhibition, showcasing both her pieces and the participants' works. It would serve as a tribute to her mother, a collision of past and present, a space where their journeys could intertwine seamlessly. As she made the announcement, the thrill within her was palpable, almost electric. "Jake, this is really happening," she said, her excitement bubbling over as they discussed the final preparations. "I know. I'm genuinely impressed with how far you've come," Jake acknowledged, his voice thick with pride that became a steadying force for Emma. Emma felt a warmth flow through her, the recognition that her growth was not only personal, but also validated by those closest to her. Just weeks before, anxiety had been her constant companion, but as she painted and engaged with the community, she tasted the sweetness of personal achievement for the first time. The night of the exhibition dawned with a mesmerizing vibrancy, excitement palpable in the air. The gallery, once merely an intimidating space, had become a kaleidoscope of artistic expression, a sanctuary that encapsulated their mother's spirit and Emma's burgeoning identity. The scene felt almost surreal. Friends, family, and neighbors gathered, engaged in animated discussions revolving around their shared love for art. Standing before her work, Emma felt an inner calm worthy of admiration. Her paintings radiated emotion, vulnerability, and resilience, the very essence of what she had sought to convey. Memories of her mother flooded back, infusing each piece with a sense of lineage and transformation. As people walked through the gallery, she overheard snippets of conversation. Words of appreciation bolstered her self-confidence. "There's such a depth in these pieces," one visitor remarked. "It's incredible how she tells a story of healing through color," another added. Each comment felt like a feather-light affirmation, another layer solidifying her identity as an artist. Emma's heart swelled, acknowledging that this moment was both a culmination and a conduit, a means of honoring her mother's legacy while carving out her individual space within the artistic realm. When the night reached its climax, Emma stood alongside Jake, together enveloped in the radiance of the moment. With each person who offered their thoughts, she engaged in dynamic discussions, reflecting an evolution from an introspective artist to a confident creator, passionate about inspiring others. With the culmination of the exhibition came recognition not just in accolades but in true emotional connection. It became evident that the community valued her not only for the lineage she held, but for the heart she poured into her work. In that profound realization, Emma finally conquered the fears that had long dictated her journey. The night swapped the haunting echoes of insecurity for applause, the thrill of achievement, and the embodiment of her mother's spirit amidst her own. As the final patrons departed, Emma turned toward Jake. "Can you believe how far we've come?" she queried, a profound realization dawning within her. "Absolutely. You've shown not only us but yourself that you can stand on your own. I'm proud of you, Em." In that moment, a powerful understanding settled deep within her core. Emma knew she had transcended the definition of the daughter of an artist. She had firmly established herself as an artist in her own right, confident, passionate, and fulfilled. Her mother's legacy lived on, woven into her very being while she effortlessly evolved into the person she was always meant to become. It was clear now. Success was not merely found in the acknowledgement of accolades, but in the identity she shaped through struggle and the embrace of vulnerability. As the curtain closed on that night of triumph, Emma felt an exhilarating shift. Her past no longer shackled her ambitions, but formed the truest testament of her journey. She stood poised at the precipice of her future, touched by the whispers of her past, ready to embrace whatever lies ahead. Now, she would not just create, she would inspire, and with that thought blossoming in her mind, a new chapter awaited, laced with both potential and promise. To the audience witnessing this transformation, a compelling moment approaches. Here's the opportunity to dive deeper into more life-altering stories. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support continued growth. Comment your reactions and theories about Emma's journey and the intersections of legacy and identity. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans of personal overcoming stories know this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.